Hey there, it's Aaron. I am doing some painting today. It is my birthday, actually. Just turned 48, and I am enjoying a slightly early dram. It's actually a scotch from the Isle of Arran, called Arran. It's a 10-year, and it's very nice. Not spelled like my name is spelled. Rather Arran, which I really kind of like. If I were ever going to change my name, I think I would just adopt that spelling. But yeah, it's my birthday, getting some work done, going to dinner this evening, and I'm working on this cover quality commission. And I was asked to do Mr. Miracle, and so I came up with this idea that I would trap him inside the blister pack for his Kenner figure from back in the day. They were the Superpowers collection, which you can see. It's upside down because I'm just filling in some yellow, and it helps me, to just in terms of the angle. So sorry that it is upside down, but you can turn your screen right side up if you need to. So this isn't going to be a super long video. Let me take a little sip here. Slange. As I sit here and I just kind of fill in paint by number style right now. At this phase of the image, what I'm really doing is just blocking in color. Getting my foundation level in. The thing that I did, I came up with this bright idea, that not only would I, trap him inside the blister pack, but I would do this in the style of trompe-l'oeil, which, if you're not familiar, is I think it dates back to the late Renaissance or the High Renaissance period. Well, actually earlier than that, but really came into its own in terms of technique. I think probably by the Dutch masters, and it means to deceive the eye. And it's where you are trying to paint an image in a way to make it look real. And I just went over my lines a little bit. It's not a big deal. And there's lots of great examples of this, but it does mean that I'm going for a level of realism that is, even more intense than what I typically go for in my covers. I have done trompe-l'oeil in the past, but on a much smaller scale, and I can show you an example of that right now. It is what was called a Lotteria card. It's not a tarot card, and this is in oils. And this is when I did this painting in 2016. Wow, it's almost 9 years ago. It's crazy. I did this at 1:1 scale, so that is the actual scale of the Lotteria cards, which are the same size as any other playing cards. But it's actually a good... I pulled this out just a little bit ago because I think it's the only example of trompe-l'oeil that I currently have in my files. And I didn't realize, it's the La Muerta card, which is actually very apropos for something that I was going to talk about just briefly as I work on this, which is, akin or connected to thoughts I often have on my birthday, or just pretty much every day, which is death. And it's funny too, because I was just listening to last Sunday's episode of This American Life, which was a rerun of an episode from years ago about sleep. And the last story, chapter 5, was basically all about death and individuals who are terrified of it. And that is absolutely me. And it's interesting because I think about it so much. Recently, the company that I'm currently working for, which is still secret, so I can't tell you who they are, but the company that I'm doing my new creator-owned book through, did a marketing meeting with me, and kind of like a branding thing. And one of the questions that they asked me to kind of drill down on who I am is they asked if I had 5 minutes to do a TED Talk, what would I do? And I kind of knew right away, and this gives you a sense of like kind of how morbid I can be. But it's an idea that I call the 4 deaths. So there is a concept, that some psychologists, I can't remember who it is, there is a concept that some psychologists came up with called the 3 deaths. And it goes like this, that the first death, or that everybody experiences 3 deaths. So the first death is when your body ceases to function and brain activity stops. The second death is when your body is committed to the grave or cremated, whatever, what have you, whatever death ceremony or ritual there is. The third death is some point in the future when your name is spoken for the last time. And for many people, I mean, look, you have Alexander the Great, who, according to, this philosophy, has never experienced his third death. And theoretically, as long as the planet continues to spin and histories continue to be recorded, he never will. Same thing with people like Leonardo da Vinci and, the famous people of history. But I came up with this idea that there is, in fact, a 4th death that people can experience. And oftentimes, I think it might be possible that the 3rd and the 4th are experienced simultaneously. But I came up with this idea of the 4th death after Notre Dame burned to the ground. Well, not completely burned to the ground, but when it burned, which I consider to be a monumental cultural travesty. It's one of the greatest works of architecture and art in the history of humanity. I've been in Notre Dame prior to the burning, and it was an incredible place. I know that they've rebuilt it now, and it's very clean looking on the inside. But the 4th death is, as I term it, is the last time that your presence in the world exists. I guess it's kind of a clunky way to say it. Meaning the physical presence of your impact on this earth ceases to exist, that is your 4th and final death. And Notre Dame is a good example because for many carpenters, and stonemasons perhaps too, when Notre Dame burned, that was their 4th and final death. And I'll explain. The attic of Notre Dame was timber framed. which means it was heavy wooden timbers that were hand cut by artisans in the Middle Ages and then painstakingly fitted together, Lincoln log style. And I've done carpentry, I've done woodworking, so I understand, what that means. And if you've ever been in a building that was timber framed and you can see those exposed timbers, you see the evidence of the craftsman who hewed those logs, who created the joints, who cut the joints, and who fitted them together. Not only can you see the tool marks from their adzes and their axes and their chisels, but you can see the actual identifying marks that they made to indicate who they were, so that they could identify themselves to their foreman or to the powers that be, that they were the craftsmen who cut that particular timber, to make sure that they were credited for their work and got paid properly. And that's their signature. Not only that little mark that isn't really a name, it's just some kind of hatch mark, but it's their signature. And it's the evidence of their existence. And you might not we may never know, or we will never know their names, but we will see the fruits of their labor, and we can see their presence. And when Notre Dame burned to the ground, or at least when the attic caved in and burned completely, the evidence of countless masters of their craft ceased to exist in this world. And sure, it is possible that there are structures in Paris and France and elsewhere that still remain, that were carved by those particular individuals. But if there aren't, then they're gone. And that was their final end. So, and it's a tragedy when things like that happen. And it's upsetting to me when Notre Dame burned and there was that outpouring of support, people and nations willing to donate billions of dollars in order to rebuild this structure. People saying that no, it wasn't worth it. There are better things to do with that money. And I am sorry, but there is nothing more noble than the preservation of art and culture. It's just sad that it was not possible to preserve the work of those craftsmen. So at any rate, that's my very depressing birthday thought for this year. So you just got to see me fill in all of these yellow stars. And once again, Slange, I guess happy birthday to me. And may your fourth death be many centuries in the future.